Just wait until you see how deep this rabbit hole goes. I just followed Ripple's money trail and it led me straight into a billion-dollar plot twist. And here is the kicker. The twist was hiding in plain sight. So, picture this, it's 6 AM, my coffee's still dangerously hot, and I'm doom scrolling X like a responsible adult that I am. Suddenly, Hunter Horsley, that bitwise guy who usually kind of tweets spreadsheets disguised as opinions, drops a grenade. He says, I wonder if in 12 months people will call Ripple an XRP Treasury company. Now my brain does a bit of a double take, so hard that I almost kind of yeet the mug. Ripple, that's the payment plumbing crew. Turning into the MicroStrategy of XRP? That's kind of like finding out that your friendly neighborhood baker secretly stockpiles gold bars in his basement. Now, instantly, every single XRP chat that I'm in kind of lights up like the Vegas Strip. One buddy kind of DM'd me saying, dude, Ripple becoming an XRP treasury firm is the ultimate Uno reverso card, right? After years of yelling XRP Ripple. Now, another one chimed in and said, there already are a kind of treasury company, just without the t-shirt. And honestly, they kind of have a bit of a point. Right, Ripple controls roughly 40 billion XRP, around 41% of the supply. Worth, or give or take anyway, right? Now, that's $94 billion at today's kind of $2 and some change price tag. Now, that's more digital silver than Thor's hammer could squash. Now, here's the problem that kind of yanked me in. Everyone keeps asking whether Ripple kind of hoards is a bug or a feature, right? Critics scream it's just too centralized, while fans kind of whisper strategic war chest. But if Horsley is right, maybe that stash isn't just kind of bullist. It's the blueprint maybe for a full-blown treasury pivot. Now let's think MicroStrategy and kind of Bitcoin, right? But with faster settlement and maybe less Michael Saylor meme energy. So I did what any caffeine-fueled crypto nerd would go ahead and do. I ran a ninja-level thought experiment, right? I imagine that Ripple kind of files the kind of corporate paperwork tomorrow declaring, yep, we are now an XRP treasury company, deal with it. How would that Ripple, pun very much intended by the way, go through the entire ecosystem? So the first stop would be the institutional optics then, right? Corporates kind of love precedents, right? MicroStrategy's buy Bitcoin, live forever kind of pitch gave CFOs the courage to dabble in digital gold. An official Ripple pivot could shout XRP on balance sheets is normal, folks. Now suddenly those kind of two firms, raising almost $1 billion, Webus and Trident Digital, don't look actually that crazy, right? They actually just look early. Now boardrooms everywhere kind of start seeing XRP the way that your grandma sees T-bills. Boring but beautiful kind of safety nets against currency whiplash. Second stop then is the kind of market mechanics. If Ripple kind of shifts from passive hoarder to active allocator, well, they've got the dry powder like no one else. But even releasing just a fraction of kind of escrowed XRP into a kind of a structured buybacks, liquidity pools, or maybe even staking programs could jolt daily volumes, right? So picture a giant friendly whale kind of showing up at your community pool, making tidal waves that carry kind of the minnows higher instead of squashing them. And third stop is the regulatory theatre, right? The SEC's gloves off kind of ball with Ripple kind of gave us enough popcorn moments to last a decade. But if Ripple kind of flips to treasury mode, the narrative changes from kind of tech startups selling unregistered securities to corporate treasury optimizing reserves. Now that's not a dodge, it's a conversation regulators already kind of understand. So think of it like driving a sports car. It's scary until you kind of call it a commuter vehicle with kind of sprinted acceleration. But of course, there's a monster under the bed and liquidity risk. Now, the moment that Ripple kind of hoists the treasury flag, skeptics will of course screech. You hold too much XRP. Now you're buying more? It's the kind of financial equivalent of ordering dessert in a diet group chat. Plus, market participants might fear Ripple's moves could actually whipsaw prices. Buy every single dip, sell every single rip, right? And let's kind of be real. You would control 40% of everything, right? You'll never be completely silenced, kind of the decentralization police. And then here is kind of where the plot thickened for me. Right, I opened the escrow schedule, right? Ripple locks away a chunk of XRP each month, releases it, and then re-escrows what they don't need. Now that recycle routine is essentially a programmable treasury strategy already. So Horsley's tweet might not be predicting a change, but a rebrand. Kind of like when Dunkin' kind of ditched the donuts part, right? Same sugar rush, just snappier headline. So at this point, my brain is buzzing harder than an overclocked GPU. So I decide to sanity check the numbers. MicroStrategy owns roughly 1% of all Bitcoin. Ripple, try 41% of XRP. Now, MicroStrategy's stash cost them around $15 billion. Ripple's XRP hoard was, well, free. It was minted at Genesis, later sold in drips. So if Ripple openly leveraged that hoard like a reserve asset, the psychological drag race between BTC and XRP could get wild real fast. Oh, and I haven't even mentioned price action. Right now, at the point of recording, XRP is flirting with that kind of $2.60 level, popping 12% in nearly 48 hours after the BNY Mellon custody tease. Now, that kind of push sliced through a year-long descending trendline like hot butter on the Dubai morning. Now, if Ripple kind of signals, yeah, Treasury mode activated, well, speculators, they could actually swarm like bees at a soda spill, chasing the narrative of supply shock plus corporate FOMO. But let's pump the brakes right here, because mid-scroll I remembered the YouTube policy gremlins kind of squatting at my shoulder. So here's the must-say bit, and a deep breath is needed. Now this one, it might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are going to be liable for any losses. And this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, that's the disclaimer deployed. Let's get back to the juicy stuff. Okay, so I decided to roleplay Ripple's CFO for just a moment. Step 1. Reclassify a slice of escrowed XRP as strategic reserves. Right? Step 2. Issue quarterly treasury reports. Think Berkshire letters, but with less kind of Warren Buffett and more on-chain charts. Step 3. Create a transparent buyback framework where a portion of ODL, that's on-demand liquidity revenue, automatically scoops XRP off the market the same way that Apple retires shares with excess cash. Now, retail investors, they have a clear scoreboard. Institutions have discipline, and Gary Gensler, no longer at the SEC, gets kind of a metric dashboard that he can look at in retirement. But wait, what about utility pricing? Right? Unlike Bitcoin, XRP already does stuff, right? It bridges currency, it greases remittances, it powers tokenized real-world asset transfers. Treasuries usually hold non-productive assets. Yet XRP's velocity, in payment corridors could increase if, Ripple's treasury kind of pivot boosts trust. So thinks Swiss Army knife meets Fort Knox. Another wrinkle is staking, right? No, XRP doesn't have POS like Ethereum, but wrapped XRP plus side chains like hooks or the upcoming AMM proposal could enable yield-bearing scenarios. So if Ripple kind of tilts towards treasury status, maybe they actually allocate some XRP into those yield strategies, turning dormant coins into dividend machines. Suddenly, their balance sheets earn passive income in kind of rather than kind of just setting the supply. Now, MicroStrategy, they can't do that with Bitcoin unless they loan it to a degenerate yield farm. Okay, so during my fourth cup of coffee, and yes, I might need an intervention, I kind of peeked at the Treasury presidents. Tesla briefly held Bitcoin, right? Square, now Block, still does, and Latin American airlines have flirted with mileage-backed stablecoins. Corporates chasing asset diversification isn't new, right? The novelty is an issuer turning its own product into a reserve. Imagine Coca-Cola banking on Coke syrup, futures instead of dollars. It's wild, yes, impossible, apparently not in the crypto land. Now, for some kind of shoe leather reporting, I shot off emails to 3 mid-tier CFOs who've dabbled in digital assets. 2 ghosted me faster than my high school crush. 1 replied. Now, if Ripple classifies accounting treatments as analysts and custody solutions, well, would seriously consider XRP for FX hedging. The translation is that legit enterprises, they aren't allergic to XRP, they just want adult supervision. And speaking of custody, yeah, did you catch that BNY Mellon pilot rumor? Well, old school Wall Street guard dogs safeguarding Ripple's loot. That's kind of like hiring a Michelin chef to guard your PB&J. Overkill, but suddenly everybody kind of takes your sandwich seriously. Now, institutional grade custody kind of obliterates the what if Ripple loses the keys fear and unlocks the entire swaths of conservative capital. Now, at this kind of crescendo, I realized something. This story isn't just Ripple potentially kind of glowing up. It's actually a case study in narrative arbitrage, right? For a decade, critics kind of framed Ripple's escrow as a massive threat. Flip the script, of course, and call it the Treasury, and the exact same stash becomes a moat. So it's the ultimate PR kind of judo move then, right? You use your opponent's weight against them. And that is kind of why Horsley's tweet exploded the way that it did. It kind of condensed years of debate into a 12-word mic drop. By now, my timeline's debate is kind of muted into, or at least mutated into, price predictions, $5, $10, even $100 XRP if Treasury fever catches on. Now, I'm not slapping numbers on a thumbnail, right? YouTube gods kind of frown on that quite a bit. But what I can't ignore is the momentum, right? Even a modest Treasury uptake among Fortune 500 firms could squeeze float tighter than skinny jeans after Thanksgiving's dinner. And let's not forget the retail kind of side here, right? If you've ever tried buying XRP during a hype cycle, you know exchanges can feel like Black Friday checkout lines. And that is why I personally use Kraken Pro. The link in the description is an affiliate link that supports the channel at no extra cost to yourself. That's full FTC transparency. So if you don't trade there, Kraken tosses at least if you trade there, Kraken does toss a couple of Satoshis my way so that I can keep, mainlining caffeine and peeling back crypto mysteries just for you. Now, while you're down in the description, you probably want to hop into that free educational Discord server. Think of it as a crowdsourced brain where you can pitch wild theories, share charts, or just meme your way through the market chaos. No paywall unless you want to join the elite tier. No kind of guru nonsenses either, just a tribe of night owls trying to kind of outlearn each other. Okay, deep breath. Let's go ahead and land the plane. Where, at least to kind of, to discuss what we have learned from all of this breadcrumb trail then, right? Ripple holds a mountain of XRP, about 41% of the supply, and that's either a dead weight or a secret weapon depending on how you want to frame it. Now, Hunter Horsley's 12-month Treasury prediction is less moonshot and more logical evolution given institutional treasuries already raising nearly $1 billion. Now, a formal kind of XRP Treasury company label could actually rewrite, Ripple's regulatory script, unlock, corporate adoption and tighten supply-demand dynamics. Market timing, it does indeed matter, right? XRP is kind of perched above the $2.40 level now and breaking major resistances. A Treasury announcement here would actually be rocket fuel. But none of this guarantees riches. It simply just shows how a narrative pilot, or pivot I should say, can flip investor psychology like a pancake on a Sunday morning. Personally, I'm strapping in for a bit of a bumpy but thrilling ride. Whether Ripple inks Treasury Co. or on the kind of letterhead or, keeps kind of playing coy, the kind of conversation alone is a bit of deja vu of 2020's corporate Bitcoin, right? The same drumbeat that sent BTC vertical. Will history rhyme? No crystal balls here, of course, just patterns, probabilities, and enough coffee power. At least 2 power a small mining rig, that is. And so, if tonight's rabbit hole gave you some fresh angles on XRP's future, smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next deep dive.